Today we're going to take a look at Autodesk Water, and I'm going to go over a basic overview of kind of what is Autodesk Water used for, kind of what can be done in Autodesk Water, and what kind of the software looks like when you open it up for the first time. So to start off, what is Autodesk Water used for? Autodesk Water is a full design and analysis solution that designers, developers, landscape architects, engineers, consultants, and approval authorities rely on to design and audit drainage systems quickly and confidently, deliver sustainable, cost-effective, and compliant designs, as well as accelerate BIM workflows. So with that idea in mind, let's start taking a look here at Autodesk Water. First thing I will say is up at the top here when we launched Autodesk Water, the initial program was actually called Info Drainage. It was a product offered by Innovyze, but now with Autodesk owning this program, eventually this Info Drainage name will be changed to Autodesk Water. So anywhere you see Info Drainage and it's going to be the same as Autodesk Water. If I say Info Drainage, Autodesk Water, they're the same program. So just a little preface there. But let's kind of jump into the interface here. So when you launch Autodesk Water for the first time, this is the interface that's going to populate. I have an example project loaded, so that's why there's some material showing up in the plan view here. But when you open it, this space will just be a blank empty space. So it'll look very similar to other programs like Civil 3D and stuff like that. We have kind of our ribbons up here with a bunch of our tools and drop-down menus. On the left over here, we have our tree view. As we start to draw certain things and add certain things into the plan view space within Autodesk Water, all that information is going to live and populate over here so we can see exactly what lives in the drawing. On the far right here, we'll have our toolbox. This is where we can actually start importing objects from this toolbox into Autodesk Water into the plan view. We have the option to do inflows, junctions, stormwater controls, and connections, which I'll tap into here in a little bit, as well as just some basic tools for selecting, zooming, panning around within the plan view here. So one thing after kind of going over the interface, one thing to note is that when starting a project, you're able to import and export pretty easily and seamlessly between Autodesk Water and Civil 3D. With this import command, I have the option to bring in surface data, CAD data. If I have a 2D site plan layout, I can bring in all that line work to have in here. So as I'm going through and doing a design, I can have all of that kind of background information in here. I can also import GIS data, or I can import just an image. If I click on one of these, say I'll click on surface, for example, there's a bunch of different options for me to import surface data. I can do directly from a CAD file. I can do from a land.xml file. If I have all the information in an Excel file, I can get all that information added into here. When I choose one of these options to add, all that information for the surface will populate here. You're able to check it, add points, delete points, trim your surface. So you can kind of manage the size of it, and if there's any bad data in the surface, you can exclude that. Same thing goes with importing CAD data. It'll ask you to navigate to the file location of your DWG, and once you import that CAD drawing, all that line work will populate in the plan view here in the background as kind of like an overlay, so you can reference the project as you're laying out certain pipes and such. So that's the import command. And then similarly, once we start, or not similarly, but on the opposite end, once you start actually laying out your system in here, you can export. We can export directly to Civil 3D. We can export to an image. We can export the plot and profiles that are produced in here. We can export the design. Basically, we can push these networks back to Civil 3D. It'll load and keep that network in Civil 3D. And we can go back and forth very seamlessly. Other programs like SSA that is incorporated with Civil 3D, there's been issues going back and forth. This Autodesk Water software has solved that issue. The flow between the two programs is a lot better. So now we kind of talked about how to get information within here. Next thing I'm going to kind of mention is some cool, unique features about Autodesk Water and why it is a pretty cool program and can help you in the design phase and save some time. One of the main things that is a really powerful tool is this deluge option. There are two different versions of Autodesk Water. There's an ultimate version and a regular version. The ultimate version will have some additional features, the deluge tool being one of them, and the other tool being a custom ribbon loaded into Civil 3D, which I'll show here in a little bit. What this deluge tool does is it allows you to analyze some sort of quick little rainfall event on a surface. So when you run this deluge tool on that surface, it'll show you all the low spots. It'll put flow arrows on the surface showing which way the water is flowing. It'll create kind of like a color-coded heat map to show where the water is collecting so you can identify low spots on the site, where a pond should essentially sit on a site, all within just like a couple minutes. So that is a really cool feature within the Ultimate version. Another thing we have access to within here is this Validate tool. So after you come in and insert your design in here, you have the option to validate your design. If there are any errors, they'll spit them all out here for you. They'll tell you exactly where these errors are located, why it's giving you an error, and an option for a solution on how to fix the error. Since I preloaded this existing model just to kind of show what stuff looks like in here as you insert stuff into Autodesk Water, there aren't any solutions, or aren't any issues. So if there aren't, it'll say okay, and you're good to go and basically run your analysis then. Another cool feature with the Ultimate version is this 1 versus 2 and 2D to 2D analysis, and this option to have this clash analysis. So having kind of gone over that quickly, what can actually be done in Autodesk Water? So what you can essentially do is you're going to be inserting and creating storm systems. You can also calculate runoff values by entering watersheds. If you create catchments within Civil 3D, all those catchments will actually come in here and load into Autodesk Water. That's what all these green boxes are. So if I click on one of these guys here, we can see we have a drainage area. We have the area for it, primary sizing, dynamic sizing. We can change the runoff method. Maybe I want to do SES. And all that kind of information to get the peak flow rates for each watershed lives within here. So you can get all that peak flow rate values calculated within here. You don't have to use another program like HydroFlow Hydrographs or anything like that. You can do all that stuff right within here as you're sizing and as you're designing your storm layout. You can also, instead of importing that stuff from Civil 3D, you can add them via the inflows button over here. So all these green squares in that example that I just clicked on are catchment areas. You can also do green roofs. Autodesk Water does have a bunch of different green options. They live kind of in these different tabs. I'll show each one, but you can do green roofs, catchment areas, and you can also add just a base flow. If you know you have an offsite thing or area that is flowing, say a point flow to one of these areas or to some sort of pond or culvert, you can also just add a base flow into one of these areas. The next thing I'll kind of look at here is this junctions tab. We can insert manholes, sealed manholes, or simple junctions. And to get these stuff into the plan view, we can simply just click and drag. And then as we want to add more, we can just click and put them wherever we need them. If you have the line work, the 2D line work, imported from your Civil 3D model within Autodesk Water, when importing these manholes or essentially like putting these manholes into the plan view, if you come over to this plan tab and select it and select this snap option, you can actually snap to line work. So say you have a 2D line drawn for where you want your storm system to be. You can snap your manholes to where your manholes are, and you can snap your pipes to where your pipes are. So you're not having to get just an estimate. It can actually be right over your line work. So when you go back and forth importing and exporting changes, sizes, materials, and such, all that stuff will stay in the same location and be correct in Civil 3D and in Autodesk Water. This next tab here is the stormwater controls. This is kind of where the green options of Autodesk Water live. We have the option for bioretention, cellular storage, underground chambers, dry wells, ponds, porous pavers, swales, and tanks. So all these things are options. You don't have just basic ponds. You can do a whole bunch of different design for storage and infiltration methods within Autodesk Water. And the last one is going to be our Connections tab. Connection is going to have all the ways we can connect manholes from manholes, outflows to outflows, if we need some sort of channel to divert water to a pond, around a pond, stuff like that. All that stuff will live in this Connections tab, and it's very similar to just clicking and dragging and inserting where you want the pipe to be. If I wanted to add a manhole pipe from here to say here, I could simply do that. Once you get all that stuff in here and you're going on and designing your system, you can always double click on any of the things in here. It'll bring up tabs, information about the object you clicked on. Like for the catchment area, it's going to ask us, how we want to do our runoff calculations for this catchment area, the size of it and stuff like that. Clicking on a pipe is going to bring up a table showing all the different pipes. The one we click on is going to be automatically highlighted here. It'll show the slope, Manning's End if we have one correlated to that, elevations, flows if we have flows going through them and stuff like that. And all this information can be modified via the View tab. Whenever we open one of these tables, we can add and take away information here depending on what we want to see. So after you get all your design and stuff laid out in here, you also have the option to print a report. And you can print a report to use for your drainage report. So that way it'll spit out all of your pipes, your manholes, your catchment areas and such. So all that information will be included in any sort of submittal that needs to be done. And then one thing I forgot to mention that I'll mention now is when you're initiating this kind of design within Autodesk Water and you need to select some type of method of which you're going to be using to analyze this information or storm event. This rainfall manager has a really cool option built in to where if I go ahead and come up to here, right click and hit edit, it's going to open up my rainfall manager. If I'm doing some sort of modified method, I have the option to create IDF curves to use when analyzing my catchment areas. I can also add a bunch of different methods in here that are already preloaded into Autodesk Water. So say I wanted to pull information from NOAA, maybe I'm doing in the SCS method, I can simply click on NOAA, hit the add button, and all this information from the NOAA website, NOAA Atlas 14 website, is built directly into Autodesk Water. So I can simply come to any location. Let's see, our main office here is in Little Rock, Arkansas. So maybe I want to zoom in here and get close to where our office is. I can click on the map, hit generate rainfall data. It's going to download it directly from that NOAA Atlas 14 website. I can add or delete certain return periods that I want to see information for. Maybe I want to see the 100-year. I can select my storm duration. Maybe I want the 24-hour duration. And then I can select what distributions I want for this storm event as well. And then once I enter all that information and hit OK, all my storm stuff is selected. I'm ready to get peak flows for all my catchment areas, start running and analyzing my system that I've designed. So that's just kind of a quick rundown of Autodesk Water, what it's used for, what you can accomplish with this program. It's very easy to use, very user-friendly, and the compatibility between transitioning between design within Autodesk Water and Civil 3D is super easy and streamlined and will definitely help save time in making changes and designs to storm systems for your current projects and future projects.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.